Washington since 1897.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Two more Democrat Socialist governors get into the race for the Democrat Socialist 2020 nomination. Inslee of Washington State and Hickenlooper, formerly of Colorado. Comrade Bernie, barnstorming the nation, starting in Brooklyn on Saturday, coming over to Navy Pier in Chicago last night.
Yeah, they had a good showing. Tens of thousands of people were there.
And Trump addressing CPAC for a couple of hours on Saturday.
Did you really think he was going to stop talking?
Trump Unplugged. It's good stuff. Yeah. Highly entertaining. He can't wait for whoever they nominate.
And African-American income has reached an all-time high. So when I'm on the debate stage with one of these maniacs, I mean, trains to Hawaii. How do you get to Europe? We haven't figured that one out yet. We don't use airplanes anymore. You saw what I'm doing in California, right? They have a fast train. The fast train goes from San Francisco to Los Angeles. It's over budget by hundreds of billions of dollars. So they have a great idea. The new governor, nice guy. He is, nice guy. When I'm with him face to face, nice. When he speaks about me, not so nice. But face to face, he loves me. Called me up. He said, "You're a great president. You're doing a great job." He actually did 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. He'll probably deny it, but check the phone records.
Just gives you check the phone records, and it was cut off. Because everybody else does, which was another punchline. Gavin Newsom's a punchline in and of himself. But he is looking forward to discussing the Green New Deal with whoever the socialists nominate, that's for sure, including Comrade Bernie. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Salena Zito, Washington Examiner reporter, New York Post columnist, CNN contributor, and her book, you got to pick up the book, The Great Revolt, Inside the Populist Coalition, Reshaping American Politics. It doesn't just explain 2016. It also looks like it's going to explain 2020 if this continues to play out where it stands right now. Salena, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, and thanks for buying the book. It absolutely lays out the blueprint for 2020. And it takes you inside who makes up this conservative populist coalition and their motivations to vote for President Trump in 2016 and beyond.
And you write in the New York Post in your March 2nd column about a comment Bill Maher made on his program, which speaks to what the left hasn't learned from the 2016 results.
Yeah, so he went on this rant, and you know, he's a comedian. I understand he needs to sort of throw red meat out to his audience. I get that. That's what comedians do. But what I found, rather horrifying was how receptive his remarks were to his audience. I mean, they didn't just politely clap; they were really into it. And he made several disparaging remarks about people who live in red states that ran from, they're envious of people who live in blue states because people in red states get Chef Boyardee, where they get Wolfgang Puck, and they compared their envy to. He compared red state envy to being Meghan Markle's dad, while all the rest of them were in the palace. And so I thought it was important to illustrate to people that it's not just pro-Trump Republicans that grow weary of this kind of attitudes towards people that live in red states. So I went around and I talked to some people that live in red states about how they felt about that didn't vote for Trump and how it makes them feel towards Democrats. Well, they're not running towards Democrats. They're very tired of the caricature that plays out not just in politics, not just in government, but also in our popular culture, whether it's sports or Hollywood or entertainment or an award show. People that live in red states are always the butt of the joke.
Yeah, and don't you think that they're getting sick of that? I mean, they're perpetuating a stereotype that they're basically stupid, don't you think?
Yes. They're continuing that sort of Little Abner stereotype that's been going on since the 1920s, but because of how connected we are, it is something that is amplified daily. And while we don't like stereotypes of any sort of minority group, it seems to be okay to stereotype people that live in red states and with among the cultural elite. But even in people that aren't Trump voters aren't going to run over to establishment Republicans or Democrats with this kind of attitude.
And Bernie Sanders, who's jumped into the race with a fury, even at 77, aged apparatchik as he is, the putative front runner. And it seems to me that his appeal is, and his advantage is twofold. One, he's the Sir Galahad of the socialists, right? He is the most pure of heart of the socialists that are running. And secondly, the infrastructure that he built in 2016, which he can leverage in 2020, particularly to raise a lot of money through small dollar donations, as he's doing.
Oh, I mean, if I were a Democrat and I dismissed his size of his rally, that should be a criminal dismission, because he has an amazing amount of energy behind him, money behind him, and infrastructure, as you noted, campaign infrastructure behind him. And he is probably the only Caucasian candidate that the Democrats have that can be formidable enough to pull the base of their electorate together to win a primary. People dismiss him at their own folly because had it not been for the super delegate infrastructure within the Democratic Party, which, by the way, does not exist in the way that it did in 2016, there would have been a convention floor fight between Clinton and Sanders, and I suspect that Sanders could have won that. They had about the equal amount of popular vote and equal amount of delegates, but the super delegates, which are the elites within the party, the establishment elites, they acted as a filter and kept him from winning.
Wow. Do you think he's going to get it this time? I mean, second time's a charm.
I mean, it's really hard to tell, but I would say he has the most. He has all these things going for him: money, infrastructure, and message. I mean,
right.
For their Democratic primary voters, that's a lot.
And college students love him.
That's a lot.
Because he thinks he's going to erase their student debt.
Well, it's all about the free stuff.
Yeah. Who doesn't like free stuff? Yeah.
Well, so let me...
I mean, sure. Like,
yeah.
when you're young, you're like, free is great. And then you're old and you own a house and you've got car payment and, you're paying taxes. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I don't really want to underwrite everybody's life.
Yeah, well, right. And that turns out to be the majority of the American electorate is the people that have the car payment and the mortgage. And that's the problem for the left. And my question to you is, regardless of who they nominate from those that are, in the top 5 at this juncture, are we looking at Democrat socialists in pursuit of Orwell's 1984 turning 2020 into Walter Mondale's 1984 in terms of their electoral prospects?
Well, if the election was held today, Donald Trump would win, probably by more than what he won in 2016. I mean, there's a lot of variables, a lot of things can change, but he is the right candidate at the right time in history. 40 years ago, this wouldn't have happened. Running against Ronald Reagan. But 40 years before Ronald Reagan ran, he wouldn't have won with his message. So you have to look at the candidates in their time.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump was right in his time. He wasn't the result of the conservative populist coalition. He wasn't the cause of it, but he was the result of it. And Sanders has the same probability because people have not been, I've been writing about this for years, but people have really not been paying attention of what has been going on within the base of the Democratic Party.
She is Salena Zito, Washington Examiner reporter, New York Post columnist, CNN contributor, and the book. You got to get the book and share it with your friends. The Great Revolt, Inside the Populist Coalition, Reshaping American Politics. Salena, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning.